Hello everyone and welcome back to another Arma free mod review. Today we'll be having a look at the gargantuan mod that is RHS. Now this mod is great if you love Cold War stuff. If you played Arma 2 back in the day, this mod is for you. So this mod basically features a load of Cold War tech for the various factions such as the United States, the Russians, you know, some independent factions as well. It's all in there. We got Cold War tech, we got more modern day stuff, you know, it's not really the futuristic stuff that vanilla Arma 3 has, but it's more of the old school Arma 2-ish. Like, you know, the Operation Arrowhead from back in the day. I played so much of that game. It was such a good game. Anyway, so what I've done in this video is basically I've got a showcase of the vehicles, the weapons, the armor, all that stuff that you can find in this mod. So without further ado, let's get into the video. Right, so first of all we'll be looking at the RHS USAF faction, which is the United States Armed Forces basically. So look, we've got all the trucks you could ever want in your life. We've got the troop transport trucks with the MG on top, another troop transport trucks which are the open top trucks. We've got the field medical truck, we've got ammunition, different kinds of these HEMET trucks, you know, with a canopy on top for the gunner, keep his head nice and cool. The ammo truck here, the repair truck next to it, and the two fuel trucks, which with different, you know, sizes of fuels. There's so many vehicles. Look at them all. We've got all the Humvees here, the tow missile Humvees, the troop transport Humvees, machine gun, grenade launcher Humvees, different. You got the Marine Corps Humvee, you got the United States Army Humvee, we've got mortars, we've got all the desert Humvees for desert fighting, different kinds of mortars here. It's all here. This mod has everything you could ever want to have a realistic game of Arma. Like, we've got all the modern day Humvees they use, it's like the EOD Humvees, they're like mine resistant. They do take a couple of mines to destroy them. I think it's like 2 AT mines or like 1 IED or 2 IEDs can kill these things. They've got that up at the massive troop transports with guns on top. Can take about a squad with them. Then we go on to the Bradleys. Oh, the Bradleys. I've got some friends that love the Bradley. I prefer the Warrior, to be honest, but Bradley's there. The M6 Bradley there in the foreground, what you see is the anti-air version of the Bradley. The static weapons. Also, very useful. We've got the large array of tanks, although not as large as the Russians. We'll get into that in a minute. Because Jesus Christ, there's a lot. All the M1A1, M1A2, the Tusks, you know, they even have these names on the barrel. Diplomacy failed. That one. What's that? Asshole remover. Can someone tell you what this means in the comments? I have no idea what Glamdrin means. And La Bamba. Right, anyway, all the LAVs. We got mine clearing LAVs. Like, who would add this to the... I've never seen one of them actually in anti-Stasi driving around. But it's in the mod pack anyway. We got M113s. So many of the resistant factions, well, the like Island Defence Force for Tanoa use these. We got howitzers, we got more mortars, we got loads of like different Marine Corps artillery vehicles. Paladin is there, M109 Paladin. Then the little birds are here, but we'll skip over them for a bit. We'll go to the Special Forces vehicles. So these are the Special Forces MRAPs that they use. In this mod pack there are quite a few of them. And there's also the Special Forces trucks. Different kinds of jerry cans on them, because, you know, Special Forces, yeah, they're special. Then you've got the different multi-purpose vehicles. We've got Hueys here, transport helicopters, like the Marine Corps transport helicopters. We've got ones that are armed to the teeth with rocket pods. Ones that have just got door gunners. We've got oh, what are they called? Oh god, I've forgotten what they're called. Blackhawks. They've got the Blackhawks with the extra fuel tanks on them. They look like bombs, but they're actually fuel tanks. They've got the Pavlo, which I always call it a Pavlo because it's Modern Warfare 2, but whatever. It's not. It's a CH-53 Super Stallion. Came to me eventually. We got the Little Birds. Now, if you ever played Operation Arrowhead, there was only like one Little Bird, which is the AH-64. AH-60, yeah, something like MH. So we got the Scout Little Bird, we got the MH Little Bird, which is the Troop Transport Little Bird, and the people can actually shoot from the sides. If they're sitting down on the sides of that helicopter, they can shoot out at people. We got the ATGM Little Bird, and then we got the bod standards, the missiles, unguided missiles, and minigun Little Bird. Now the Huron, but it's a Chinook, whatever. This is the if you hear this well, I'll have a clip later of the sound of this thing, mates. It sounds like real life. It sounds exactly like real life. Now we got the Apache and the it's coming to me in the vision. Cobra. The Cobra. We got the A10. Got the F-22 in the background and the C-130, which you can actually open the ramp of that thing and drive cars onto it, which I think is pretty cool. It doesn't have a cockpit, sadly. There was also boats. We've got the Special Forces boats here. Can take a ton of guys with them. A ton, like 2 squads of guys. And you can also drive up onto it. And it also has some sort of boat loading system. I've never used it, but it's there if you want to. It's there if you want to use it. So that's the United States Armed Forces. Let's move on to the Russian forces and see what the United States are up against. Now we have the Russian Armed Forces. Now they get radars for some reason. Pretty cool. They also get a ton of tanks. Look at them all. Look at all those tanks. Those different variants of tanks. But we'll come on to them in a second. Now, bod stand, like the United States, we've got all the vehicles you'd ever want. We've got all the transport vehicles, the medical trucks, the fuel trucks, the anti-aircraft truck. This one gets. There's not much anti-aircraft for the Americans. The Bradley, like I said earlier. We also got BTRs. I love BTRs. I don't know what about them. I just love the look of them. So we got the BTR 70, 60 somewhere, 80, and the 80A, which has this improved turret version, which is devastating, I'll say. If you ever fight the Russians in anti-Stasi, it's devastating. We've got the BMPs. I love the look of BMPs as well. We've got the BMP-1s, got the BMP with a mortar. The BMP-2s, which are also insanely devastating for in this anti-Stasi mission. You'll find that out one day maybe. So this is a BMP-1, and the BMP-1P is the upgraded BMP with the yellow ATGM on top. They both have ATGMs, but the 1P is the one with the improved ATGM. Now this is it's a tracked vehicle that goes on water. You can also drive a car onto it and drive around on water, like the example I've put here. It's super cool, although it does bug out a lot. And it's incredibly slow. Anyway, moving on, we've got more vehicles to show off. Right, let's start this end. We got a lightly armoured tank, big gun, not much armour, very mobile. Can't remember what it's called. I think it's called PTS or something. Then you've got the BMP-3. You can tell it's a BMP-3, but it's much bigger than everything else around it. The BMDs, the light tanks of the Russian army. These can't transport as much troops as the BMP, but they're much lighter and they can get places the BMP can't go. These are more BMP-3s, different variants of BMP-3s. More BMP-3s over here. They have a big gun and a small gun as a coaxial. Now let's go on to the tanks. And the first, at the front, we have the T-72 and its different variants of T-72. Get out to the modern day T-72 that is still in service with many countries around the world. We're moving on to the second layer. We have the T-80s, and there's modern day variants and the olden day variants. This is a gas turbine engine, so it's slower to move, but once it moves, it's faster. Then behind this layer, we have the T-90s and their modern day variants and their olden day variants. One of my favourite tanks. And behind we have the T14 Armata, one of the newest tanks in the Russian arsenal. Now, you can tell it's a new tank because there's not 16 million variants of it around it. Anyway, let's move on to less glamorous stuff as tanks, as there's the UAZs. Yeah, they're just basically transports, and like the armors, and they have no guns. But behind them we have the Gazes. Now these are great. If you ever watch Russia's military parade, they have these driving around these days. Grenade launcher and the machine gun. And then they just have the normal. They're not like a Humvee. They don't have a mounted machine gun. They have like whatever the guy's carrying, and then the mounted grenade launcher. We have all the static MGs, rocket launchers, you know, Metis, anti-tank guided missile launchers. The Cord, huge 14.5mm machine gun. It's insane. It's bigger than a 50 caliber. Yeah, insane. It makes an amazing racket as well. Now these things, I'll get to them later, but they are artillery pieces. Now they have the Devodskika, and I can't remember the other one, the 2SO1 or something like that. The big artillery pieces. We've got the D25Ts. One's an AT variant, so one you can fire at the sky only, and one you can fire at the ground like an AT gun. Now these are the Grad mobile missile launchers. If you ever see a Katushka, that's basically what they are. There's a Shilka there, an anti-aircraft tank basically, with 4 annoying guns. It can shred anything in its path. Now the aircraft, there's a lot. There's a lot of aircraft, but I feel like the lot of aircraft and do the same job as that the Americans did do with like a couple aircraft. Anyway, we have these, the Heinz, made a long time ago when in the Cold War of Vietnam, I think it was, or some time in the Cold War, to mix the two principles of an attack helicopter and a troop transport. So these have a troop transport compartment. That's why they're so massive. They can transport troops and they can perform the attack helicopter role. But that's what the Mi-8 has. Mi-8 can have bombs, can drop bombs. They're not very effective, but they can still drop bombs. But they are very effective in their missile launcher abilities. Look at how many missiles they have. They have so many, well, rockets, not really missiles, but whatever. So we got all the different kinds of Mi-8s. We've got the Ka-50 over here. This is a Special Forces helicopter. You can tell by the encased rotor blade at the back, which makes it quieter than other helicopters. That's what the Comanche has, if you know what a Comanche is. It's like a discontinued stealth helicopter. Right, the Mi-24 Tajman, or whatever, I think that's what it's called. Don't quote me on this entirely if I get something wrong. Going through a lot of tech today, and my mind's going for a race. The Ka-52 Black Shark, oh, sick. It has gun pods on the side and a massive main gun, but it comes in other various configurations, like these dumbfire rocket pods and AA missiles and ATGMs. So, you know, if you see one of them, duck. Right, we've got the stealth jets. These things are massive. They're T-50s, I believe. They are huge and really fast and stealth. So, pretty insane. These are one of my favourite aircraft. The Su-25 Frogfoots. They carry so many rockets. Look at how many rockets they carry. So many. They can also carry bombs. You know, the standard. They've got ATGMs. A massive, massive KH-29, something like that, missile. Rots the screen if it comes near you. If it blows up near you, it rots the screen. We got the flankers, you know, massive missiles, massive the air defense fighters, the AA missiles. They've got a lot of them, and we have the big, the massive, the Bear. It's basically a giant Russian bomber which carries nuclear warheads. Well, it can carry nuclear warheads. Anyway, moving on. Okay, welcome to RHS GREF. Right, this is basically independent factions. This mod pack has blue 4 faction, has some red 4 faction, and has some loads of independent factions which use these vehicles. This is United Nations, as you can probably tell by the white camouflage. It uses various Russian and American vehicles, and it's basically makes up an independent force. Now these are the M113s. This is the Blue 4 Force, which is the Horizon Defense Force, which is basically like a Tanoan. It fits the ideals of a Tanoan army on Tanoa. It's what my anti-Stasi server uses, so it's whatever. They have these helicopters, the Hueys, but the old school Hueys, the really old school, the Vietnam era Hueys. They have the Scout plane at the back, and we have this insane thing. Look at it. It's just strapped to the teeth with rockets and missiles and bombs and guns, and oh, it's so cool. Moving on, let's go to the this is the faction that we use in anti-Stasi. let's get used to these vehicles, because this is what you'll be seeing. Maybe not the tanks, because we don't have any tanks like this, but we got the Shilka, we got all the BTRs, we got the BMDs, we got BMPs, we got the UAZs. It's basically just the same as the Russian forces that you've just seen, but with some added extras. Look at these helicopters, Mi-8s. We've got loads of Mi-8, the different Mi-8 variants than the Russians have. Just have more rockets, like more unarmed versions. This troop transport plane is sick, can carry a lot of troops, parachute out. We got the Fodfoots and the Flanker at the back, or the MiG. We got the L-39As, Albatross, the front there. The one that's painted the different camouflage is the Albatross, and the others are L-30 something else, L-29As. That's the GREF. Now moving on, finally we have the SAF, the Serbian Armed Forces, which is a bit weird. And they don't have many tanks that are different. They have the Mi-8s, which are actually called RHS something or others. It's just basically a copy and paste. You don't really need it, but it does have some armors and stuff that are different, and some hats, and you know, like a couple of maybe guns that are only used in the SAF. So it's good to have, but basically the vehicles are. It doesn't have anything that's different, like anything that's different. It just has some copy and pasted vehicles from the other factions. So here I've created some loadouts for you. So these are different weapon combinations and the outfits and the backpacks and all the vests and the, you know, the hats and everything you can make with the different items in this mod. So there's too many guns to really go through in this video. This video is going to get ridiculously long if I went through all the guns. Trust me, I tried it already. So this is the watered down version of that. This is like just some of the loadouts you can create. Look at these weird ass scopes. There's a grenade launcher. You got the rotary grenade launcher as well. You got the missile launchers. You got everything. Everything's in this mod. What I suggest for you to do, go down in the description down below for the mod. You know, after you like the video, of course, winky face. But go down in the description down below and download the mod for yourself from Steam or Armaholic or whatever you use, and try out these weapons. They're so cool. There's a ridiculous amount of effort that went into making these weapons run well in the game. They're insane. They are insane. Right, so there are some other things. So there's some JSOS compatibility for JSOS sounds, which add JSOS on top of RHS, because RHS comes with its own sounds in the mod, but you can add JSOS for the more realistic sounds on top. Not saying RHS sounds are bad, they're actually insanely good, but JSOS is really good as well, and I'd highly recommend the compatibility pack, which can be found in the description down below. So also, tanks are correctly modelled in this mod. So if you know about tanks, the T90 or the T72 there has a diesel engine, and the M1A2 has a turbine engine. So as they supposed to start off at the same time, it takes a while for the M1A2's engine to spool up and actually for it to start moving. So these weapons I showed you earlier, they are artillery pieces. They are ballistic missile launchers. And yes, one of these has a nuclear capped warhead. Yes, you can find nukes across the map with one of these. I don't know which version it is, if it's the KB or the M, but it's there if you want it. So I'm going to let you listen to some sounds of the JSOS compatibility. So there you have it. That's the RHS mod in Arma 3. It's pretty sick. I was just firing that artillery piece, watching it come down, and you'll see what happens. So yeah, tactical nuke. It's a bit glitchy though. I don't think Arma's designed for a nuke. But yeah, everything's fine now. Whatever. Thanks for watching the video. This video took a long time to make, so please consider leaving a like and a comment and supporting the channel. I'll hopefully get more subscribers one day and we can grow, just like this nuclear cloud is growing weirdly. You know, the mushroom cloud's on the bottom for some reason. But thanks for watching the video. All the mods will be in the description down below. My Twitter, my Discord, all that jazz will be in the description down below. Thanks for being here.